Home inspection unveiled. What to expect and how to respond as a seller. The home inspection happens after you accept an offer, but before you sign a formal contract, if one is required. When the buyer submitted their offer, they put a date down on when they will do the home inspection. Usually, that's about 1 week from an accepted offer. A home inspection is not required by lenders. The home inspection is done for the buyer's peace of mind, so that they know and are aware of any issues with the home they're buying. If items are uncovered during the home inspection, the buyer has a few choices. They can proceed with the purchase the way it is, or they can ask the seller to remedy the issues. They can ask for a credit for the items that they've uncovered, or they could just walk away. You as a seller can respond with no if you're selling the home as is, and the buyer can decide whether they want to proceed or back out. If the buyer backs out, we're back at stage 1, which is the marketing of the home. You as a seller can agree to do some or all of the repairs being requested, or you could come up with an amount that's agreeable to the buyers. Everything can be negotiated at this time unless it was specifically excluded in the initial purchase, such as being sold as is. But it should be noted that home inspections are not pass or fail. They consist of a list of items that are uncovered, usually deferred maintenance issues, such as older systems, older roofs, hot water heaters, etc. I recommend doing at least some items, if not all, or give the buyer a credit for the items. Keep in mind that if the buyer walks, it can create a perception that there's something wrong with your home, and if items were uncovered during the inspection, they now have to be disclosed to all interested parties in the future. If there are no issues or you have worked them out, you sign the formal contract with the originally agreed or newly agreed terms. Now that the home inspection is done, there are no issues, or everything has been worked out, what's next in the home selling process? What's next is the all-important appraisal. The value of the home can make or break a deal. Deal or no deal, the impact of home appraisal on your sale. The buyer's lender ordered an appraisal that will determine the value of the home, and as long as the home's value comes in at or above the sales price, we're good. If for some reason the property doesn't appraise, it can be a deal killer. If you have multiple offers, hopefully your realtor got it worked out that the buyer would be responsible for the difference. If you didn't get that worked out, or you only had one offer to work with, your options are to ask the buyer to cover the difference, negotiate with the buyer a new sales price, maybe go at half and half, or change the price to the appraised value. Appraisals are not a simple formula, but an opinion of value. So another appraiser can come in and come up with a different value. Most lenders can appeal the appraised value, but I have to be honest, in my experience, the appeals are seldom successful. Again, if the buyers can come up with the difference and you are not willing to renegotiate, you can look for a new buyer, but I highly recommend to work this out if at all possible. This is really the penultimate hurdle in the transaction. It should also be noted that the appraisers are not home inspectors, and unless the loan the buyer is applying for is an FHA loan, the appraiser is not likely to call out any items to be repaired. It will be just whether recent sales in the area justify the agreed sales price. If there are no appraisal issues or everything has been resolved, are we done yet? Not quite, but almost. Let's talk about the loan approval and what that entails next. From appraisal to approval, the seller's waiting game unveiled. Well, it is just a waiting game for the buyers to get their loan approval and get it clear to close. In the buyer's initial offer, they spelled out when they would get a loan commitment and when they would close. Those dates can be modified by both parties agreeing to the changes, but those dates are really important dates to keep in mind. If there are delays, the buyer's attorney will contact the seller's attorney and ask for a mortgage contingency extension and possibly a closing date extension if needed. As a seller, you have the choice to grant or deny the request. But if you deny their request, the buyer can walk away without penalty, meaning they get their down payment back and move on. At this point, the buyers can remove their contingency and risk being denied a loan at the last minute, which can mean forfeiting the down payment. If the buyers can prove that they are working on it and have a good explanation on why an extension is needed, I always recommend granting at least one extension. If for some reason the buyer's loan is denied, the buyer gets to walk away and they get their down payment back. Unfortunately, there is no remedy for the sellers, as most offers have a mortgage contingency for this very specific reason of protecting the buyer's down payment. Your agent has a role to play, and they should be following up with the buyer's agent and the mortgage broker to make sure that the buyer is submitting all the paperwork on time. Hopefully, everyone is doing their jobs and the loan is approved. The next step is the final one, the closing. Closing the deal. Seller's last minute most dues for a seamless transaction. As a seller, the expectation is that you will leave the home in a broom swept condition. You do not have to have the home professionally cleaned, although that would be nice and highly appreciated by the buyers. But you should at least make every effort to clean the home and take all your personal items. Nothing should be left on the walls and floors unless those items are considered fixtures. You should not replace your high-end refrigerator with a lesser-end refrigerator, lesser brand, or remove chandelier or flower pots unless those items were specifically worked out in the sales contract. Local custom is that the stove, refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave, washer and dryer stay. If you want to take any of those items, at the time of the listing, make sure they are excluded from the sale. This also applies to chandeliers, shrubs, flowers, etc. A good rule of thumb is to leave the home the way the home was when it was being shown during the marketing period. For a checklist of the 2 things to do in the final week before the closing, check the first comment on this posting for a PDF file with this info. The closing is finally here. This has changed over the years. You no longer sit on a big table in a conference room with buyers sitting on one side and the sellers on the other. Most times, your attorney will have you come in a few days prior to the closing and sign all the documents. After the closing, you go to your attorney's office and you pick up your check, or your attorney can wire you the proceeds of the sale. It is that simple. Congratulations. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, and let me know what other questions you may have about the buying or selling process.